Hello, welcome back, my friends, to another episode of It Starts With You podcast. Today, we are going to talk about your thoughts become your things. So, I really want to talk about this because, in full transparency, this is a message that I need just as much as you might need it. And the funny thing is, and I talk to a lot of my other fellow coach friends and people in this space about the things that we help people with are still the things that we need help with, which is why those of us who are coaches or business owners or leaders, we also have coaches and mentors and things like that. And sometimes we have to hold up a mirror to ourselves. And so this idea of mindset and what we focus on expands. And the name of one of my keynotes that I gave was change your thoughts, change your life. And I know this to be true. I'm certified in energy leadership, which is a leadership framework that there's 7 different levels of leadership, and essentially the way that we are showing up and the energy that we are putting out there in situations is what we bring into our lives. And we talk about energy leadership in a lot of my coaching that I do and my workshops I lead. I also do mental fitness, where we talk about rewiring our brain and creating new neural connections. And I surround myself in this space. And yet, I'm human, right? Ha, surprise, we're all humans. And I catch myself, of course, having those moments where I'm just like, you get that mind chatter and more of that negative energy going. And it ebbs and flows. And I would say sometimes, it's a lot more positive and seeing opportunity and all the things that I talk about. And then sometimes, life, I always say just like life is lifing. I don't know. I've been saying that a lot lately, maybe because I feel like it's been lifing a lot for me and for other, my connections and friends, just things happening where it's like, what are we supposed to learn from this? Like, what's the lesson here? What's the opportunity? And I think because of that and full transparency, I've been noticing more of that sort of negative energy, and you can feel it, right? You feel it in your body, you feel it in the way that you respond to your kids or to your spouse, or maybe something like you get an email or a message that wouldn't normally bother you, but you just feel it and you're getting more short fused and all of that stuff. Like, I've just been feeling it. Health things, or if business deals don't go through, or just life, right? And it kind of starts to pile up. And I caught myself and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I've been in this state for a while. Things just bugging me more. So if that's you, if that's like unusual for you, or if that's your everyday, like, we're gonna have a chat here, because I need this reminder and I want to share it with you. And so I've noticed that for myself lately, and it's like, oh, I don't like that. Or just like, oh, of course that happened. Or what else is going to happen? Something happens at the house and then it feels like another thing happens. And then, we have my husband needed like this dental thing for his tooth, and then it was like this. She's like, all those things. It's like, oh, I don't like the energy of how this feels. And I know better. When you know better, do better. That's something that I always say. I know better. I know how powerful our thoughts are. With all of that said, I am going to share with you a book that I just started reading, and I'm actually going to, like, we're going to have a little story time here. And I'm not even halfway through the book yet. I'm not even halfway through this book yet. But the first 40 pages were so transformative already, and I was like, this is what I need to talk about. I need this message. And usually what happens when I go on my social media and I share maybe like something that's going on for me, or I pop on and I do a podcast episode, that's usually the time that I get messages from people saying like, thank you, I really needed to hear that message. And so that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to chat about this, and I'm actually going to have a little story time. And so, to preface this, I read a lot of books. Obviously, I surround myself a lot in this space, having studied this. And again, I'm certified in things based in science, based in neuroscience, based in performance science, based in, the way our brain works, based in cognitive behavior, like all of these things. The modality that I use for coaching and a lot of the speaking and training that I do is based in that. And I think that's important because, some people in the entrepreneur space, sometimes we call it woo. We don't really use that word in corporate talk. If you're someone who works in corporate, we don't use that word as much. But when we think of like the law of attraction and manifestation, some of those words, like, really, I only use those words. I really only hear those words if you're in the like entrepreneur small business space. Working in corporate and working with corporate clients, we don't really use those words a lot. But I'm going to ask you to come along on the ride here because we're going to kind of blend the two of, for some people, it might be a little bit of a stretch in terms of what they, how they believe that they get things. But it really is, we're blending like the science behind with kind of the energy piece. Because even when I'm talking about energy leadership with my corporate clients, we talk about energy is a thing. Energy is a real thing. Everything is made up of energy, including your thoughts. And you have a frequency, just like everything in the planet has a certain energy and a certain pull, a certain frequency to it. We can't see it, does not mean it's not there, right? Just like gravity, unless you drop something, you can like see it happen. Your thoughts have energy, they have a frequency. And so I frequently talk to people about, if you find yourself surrounded by negative people, sometimes you have to ask yourself, why am I the one emitting that type of energy that's bringing them to me? What do I need to change, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about. And I have wanted to read this book, The Secret. If you've ever read this book, The Secret, I might say the last name wrong. It's Rhonda Byrne, Byrne. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. The Secret. Now, I have heard about this book. It's been around for a while. I've heard about this book. I've seen so many people talk about this book, and it was on my list to get this book. Again, I've read so many books around this. I've read like Atomic Habits. It was really around habits. I'm looking at my bookshelf here. High Performance Habits gets into a little bit of like mindset stuff. Think and Grow Rich, which really talks about this idea of what you think about and the law of attraction. I read that book multiple times. There's another financial one that I'm just like not able to think of the name or see it on my bookshelf at the moment, which is driving me nuts. I'll get back to you, but it's another one from more of a financial perspective, and it talks a lot about your mindset and things like that. So I've read a lot of these books. Okay, so The Secret has been on my list and I've wanted to read it, saw people talk about it, but just never went to get it. Well, this past weekend we were up we were over in a kind of a small town, and we hopped into this bookstore, and I was like, I want to get a new book. And The Secret was sitting there on the shelf, and I was like, this is what I need right now. I kind of knew what it was about. I grabbed it. I started reading it this weekend, and instantly I was like, yep, this is what I needed. And I want to share some of these excerpts with you, because if you are somebody right now who, either starting to find yourself focusing more on negative things, you feel surrounded by negative energy, you feel like it's like one thing after another keeps happening to you, you have more control and more power over that than you even realize. Sometimes we think we can't control things that happen to us. That's so true to an extent. And yet what we focus on is what we see more of and what we bring more of into our lives. And we see time and time again how this happens. And if you really want to shift your professional or your personal energy, your results, it's not just strategy. And I talk about this all the time with clients. And when I'm speaking, is it's not just strategy. We can't just come up with a new plan. We can't just come up with a new execution plan or a new communication model or a new framework. Like, yes, that's a piece of it, but it actually starts with our own thinking about the problem and seeing it differently. And some of the things that I read in here, and they bring together in the book, The Secret, they bring together all of these different contributors who contribute to this book. They're authors, they're different publishers, they're thought leaders, like Bob Proctor. Obviously, he's really, really well known. And they quote them, and they share these different things. So I'm going to share a couple things with you, because honestly, they can say it way better than I can. And I just really want to share some of these with you and have you think about them. So when they talk about the name of the book is The Secret, and pretty quickly they tell you what the secret is, which again, because I've read a lot of books like this, I kind of knew what it was, but pretty quickly they share. So Bob Proctor says, you've probably sitting there wondering, what is the secret? I'll tell you how I've come to understand it. We all work with one infinite power. We all guide ourselves by exactly the same laws. The natural laws of the universe are so precise that we don't even have any difficulty building spaceships. We can send people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. Wherever you are, India, Australia, New Zealand, Stockholm, London, Toronto, Montreal, or New York, we're all working with one power, one law. It's attraction. The secret is the law of attraction. Everything that's coming into your life, you are attracting into your life, and it's attracted to you by virtue of the images you're holding in your mind. It's what you're thinking. Whatever is going on in your mind, you are attracting to you. Sometimes when you just hear that, you're like, well, what does that even mean? So I'm attracting bad things into me. So stay tuned. We're gonna talk about more. And here's the thing, again, when we look at this, the greatest teachers who have ever lived have told us that the law of attraction is the most powerful law in the universe. So from poetry, right? William Shakespeare, William Blake, Robert Browning, they talk about it in their poetry. Musicians talk about it. Great thinkers, Socrates, Plato, Sir Isaac Newton, they talk about it in their writings and their teachings. Religions, right? Religions talk about it and talk about it in their writings and their stories. And if you look across the history, this idea is that this law of attraction and what we are thinking about in our mind is what comes to us, what comes back to us. And Bob Proctor shares that wise people have always known this. You can go right back to the ancient Babylonians. They've always known this. It's a small select group of people, and they had great prosperity, which was well documented by scholars. And they're known for creating one of the seven wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens, and they understood and really applied this law of the universe and became one of the wealthiest races in history. And then Bob Proctor says, why do you think that 1% of the population earns around 96% of all the money that's being earned? Do you think it's an accident? It's designed that way. They understand something, they understand the secret, and now you are going to be introduced to the secret. I'm going to read a couple more things to you because I just really want you to think and take what you need. It's truly like a story time. I want you to take what you need and sit with it. For me, I like to hold the actual book itself, so I can go back and you can see if you're watching the YouTube video here, I've got so many little like marks on here that I wanted to point out for you in this episode. Again, Bob Proctor. There's lots of people quoted, but here's are the ones that I kind of highlighted here. If you see it in your mind, you're going to hold it in your hand. And then Mike Dooley, who's an author and international speaker. And that principle can be summed up in 3 simple words. Thoughts become things. Through the most powerful law, your thoughts become the things in your life. Your thoughts become things. Say this over to yourself and let it seep into your consciousness and your awareness. Your thoughts become things. I'm actually going to start saying this to myself to remind myself. Your thoughts become the things that you have. What most people don't understand is that a thought has a frequency. We can measure a thought. And so if you're thinking that thought over and over and over again, if you're imagining in your mind having that brand new car, having that money that you need, building that company, finding your soulmate, if you're imagining what that looks like, you're emitting the frequency on a consistent basis. Thoughts are sending out that magnetic signal that is drawing the parallel back to you. Charles Hannell, the predominant thought or the mental attitude is the magnet, and the law is that like attracts like. Consequently, the mental attitude will invariably attract such conditions and correspond to its nature. So they're talking about thoughts are magnetic. Thoughts have a frequency. And as you think those, you send that out into the universe and you attract back those things to you. And some of you are a little further along in this journey. You're like, I've heard about that and I just need to remind myself of it. And some of you, this might be a brand new concept and you need to dig into it a little bit more and really think about it. But they talk about, your TV has a transmission tower via frequency, which is then transformed into pictures on your TV. And most of us don't understand how that works. But every channel has a different frequency and we can tune into the frequency and see the picture in our television. And we select the frequency by selecting the channel. And if we want to see a different picture, we change the channel and we tune into a different frequency. You are a human transmission tower, and you are more powerful than any television tower created on Earth. You're the most powerful transmission tower in the universe. You are transmitting that frequency with your thoughts. How crazy is that to think about? But when you think about when you have those negative thoughts, how do you feel? And then usually what ends up happening, all of a sudden, you're feeling negative and someone cuts you off in traffic and then you get to work and you spill coffee on yourself. It's almost like it's just this ripple effect versus how we can control it and change how that day goes. See yourself living in abundance and you will attract it. It works every time with every person. As you think of yourself living in abundance, you are powerfully and consciously determining your life through the law of attraction. But then the most obvious question becomes, why isn't everybody living the life of their dreams, right? Sometimes we sit there and we go like, okay, I'm just going to think about it and things are just going to come to me. Well, here's the thing. Most people are thinking about what they don't want and they're wondering why it shows up over and over again. So many times people are thinking of, I hope I don't miss that opportunity. I hope I don't trip going up on stage. I hope I don't get another bill in the mail. I hope I don't do this. I don't do that. We spend so much time thinking about the things we don't want that's where our brain is going, and we get more of that. We see more of that. Right? I talk to my clients about this too. Like if you're prepping for a big meeting or if you're giving a presentation, instead of thinking, I hope I don't forget what I'm going to say. I hope, Bob doesn't, cut me off again while I'm talking. I hope I don't lose out on that deal. And all of your thoughts are in this negative frequency, this negative energy. And that's what you're seeing. You're actually more likely then to have that thing happen. And so the idea is, how do we shift those thoughts away from the don'ts and into the idea of seeing what we do want? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this money in my bank account that I have, even if we don't have it yet, right? You're seeing it. I'm so excited about this beach house vacation home that I have. I can't believe I just, I rocked that session that I was delivering. I feel so great after having such a productive conversation. And you're seeing it from a totally different lens instead of seeing all of the things you don't want to have happen. Right? I'm going to go to a couple more things I want you to think about. Like all the laws of nature, there is utter perfection in this law. You create your life. Whatever you sow, you reap. Your thoughts are seeds, and the harvest you reap will depend on the seeds you plant. If you are complaining, how often do we complain? How much do we complain about in a day? I mean, I'm so guilty of this. I'm working on it. If you are complaining, the law of attraction will powerfully bring into your life more situations for you to complain about. If you are listening to someone else complain and focusing on that, sympathizing with them, agreeing with them in that moment, you are attracting more situations to yourself to complain about. This law is simply reflecting and giving back to you exactly what you are focusing on with your thoughts. With this powerful knowledge, you can completely change every circumstance and event in your life by changing the way that you think. Some of the things that they summarize is, the law of attraction says that like attracts like. So when you think a thought, you are also attracting like thoughts to you. Thoughts are magnetic. Thoughts have frequency. Your thoughts become things. As I'm saying this, I hope you're thinking through where this might be showing up for you. So we talk about what can you do about that? You can shift your thoughts to what you want. You can receive confirmation through your feelings that you change your frequency, and the law of attraction will grab a hold of that new frequency and send it back to you as the new pictures of your life. You can purposely use your feelings to transmit even more powerful frequency by adding feeling to what you want. So you go from the thoughts to the feelings. You can begin right now to feel healthy. You can begin to feel prosperous. You can begin to feel the love that's surrounding you, even if it's not there. And what will happen, this is Michael Beckwith, what will happen is the universe will correspond to the nature of your song. The universe will respond to the nature of that inner feeling and manifest because that's the way you feel. You'll start to look for more opportunities to see those things, to feel those things. This is your life. And it's been waiting for you to discover it. Up until now, you have been thinking that life is hard and a struggle. And so by the law of attraction, you will have experienced life as hard and as a struggle. Begin right now to shout to the universe, life is so easy. Life is so good. All good things come to me. The truth is you deserve all good things that life has to offer. You need to really believe that. I know I've asked my clients that before around this idea of believing that you deserve it. I've worked with some of my clients who they desire these high-level roles, or working with organizations and we're trying to change the culture of the organization, or a business owner. And do you believe it to be true for yourself? Do you believe that you deserve it, that you're worthy of it? Because that's where it really starts. That's where it really starts. And it suggests having these secret shifters. I love this. These such pleasant memories, nature, or your favorite music can change your feelings and shift your frequency in an instant. So people often ask me, like, how do I do this? We talk about mental fitness, like changing your brain, rewiring those neural connections. It doesn't happen in an instant, but it's all these little like micro moments that add up throughout the day. So when you start to notice those negative thoughts, when you start to notice that negative kind of frequency you're on, I talk about little moments that you can do, little mental fitness reps. In this book, they talk about secret shifters. So thinking of a pleasant memory, thinking of nature, thinking of your favorite music, a favorite place. I love to think about in the fall, there's a certain spot that I can see all of the colors. I love to think about the ocean and watching the ocean waves. And you're shifting your feelings and can really start to shift those thoughts that you have. One more thing that I'll share with you then is around the process. So it talks about this, what the creative process for really figuring out then what you want. And the first thing is you need to ask. Make a command to the universe. Let the universe know what you want. The universe responds to your thoughts. What do you really want? Sit down and write it out on a piece of paper. Write it in the present tense. You might begin by writing, I'm so happy and grateful now that. So it's like you have it. You write it as if you have it. And then explain how you want your life to be in every area. This is something that I see clients struggle with too, is you need to ask for it. You need to like put your line in the sand and say, this is what I want. I want this career. I want this job. I want this car. I want this relationship. I want this life. The first step is you need to ask and you need to be really clear about what it is. And the next step they talk about is you need to believe it. And this is so interesting because this lines up so much to one of my keynotes that I talk about in my Unboxing Potential keynote, which change your thoughts, change your life is part of that. And I have my 3 steps that I talk about in that. And it's so interesting because I hadn't yet read this book and to see the alignment here. So step 2 that they talk about is believing it. You need to believe you already have it. You need to believe it's already yours. That's like when I teach my clients visualization, we write it as if you've already achieved it. You write the goal as if you've already achieved it. And then let's see here. The 3rd step they talk about is receiving it, is, feeling great that you have this. So I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but I really wanted to share those pieces because I think some of those lines, just hearing them and really sitting with and thinking about for yourself what they mean to you. I'm not even through the book yet, but I already would recommend this if it's something that you want to read and be able to take notes from. But I know it really landed for me. And I know that for a lot of my clients, this idea, and we need to get this reminder that your thoughts become your things. That is something that you can control. You cannot control everything happening to you, but you can help to mold and clay and form what is going to happen based on what you're choosing to look at. And by being more clear on what you want and what you don't want, and kind of letting go of those don't want things and really clinging to the things you want and how you want to be showing up, you start to bring more of those things into your life. So I know for me, I'm going to sit with this and I'm going to reflect and kind of go back and really work on shifting that energy and frequency. And I love this, just another tool to share with my clients. A lot of times my clients ask me for book recommendations. And so this was one, we'll link this in the show notes as well for you, but this is one I would definitely recommend if that's an area you want to work on. And also if this is an idea, usually when I talk about it with my coaching, or particularly when I'm doing this in my keynote, I share more even of the science side of it for some people who think a little bit more analytical like that, like the science behind our brains and shifting those. So wherever you're at, again, you kind of take what piece of it resonates. But the thing is that it's true, is that it's real, and that it can really drastically, and I see it in my clients, I see it shift the results that they're getting when they don't just focus on a strategy, but they also focus on the inner. So if this is a topic and a conversation that you want to bring to your team, your organization as well, definitely reach out to me. My Unboxing Potential is one of my most requested keynotes where I talk about how you can really change the results that you're getting. We talk about building resiliency through these 3 steps. Or if this is an area you want to work on, reach out to me. We can talk about one-on-one coaching. It's something that we definitely integrate. I bring in the inner stuff and sort of the energy that we have in the mindset, and we mix it in also with the external strategies to help you achieve your goals, which I think is the most beautiful blend of being able to get those results. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully some of those things that I read landed with you, and maybe it was the message that you needed to hear today, just like I needed to hear it when I read it.